There's a type of wheel that Amish farmers custom build by hand. And in most states, it's technically illegal to drive them on public roads, not because they're dangerous, not because they break any safety code, but because they tear up asphalt in a way that makes highway departments furious. And yet these farmers keep building them, keep using them, and refuse to stop because they know something about soil that modern agriculture has spent 70 years trying to make you forget. If you've ever driven through Amish country, Lancaster County, Holmes County, rural Indiana, you've probably seen it, a massive farm wagon rolling down a dirt lane, pulled by 2 draft horses riding on wheels that look like they belong in a 19th century photograph. No rubber, no air pressure, just raw, heavy steel, sometimes with angled cleats welded along the rim. And your first thought is probably, that looks old. That looks inefficient. That looks like something we evolved past. That's exactly what the agricultural industry wants you to think. Here's what those steel wheels actually are. They're custom fabricated, often built by Amish blacksmiths and metal workers within the community itself. The diameter, the cleat angle, the rim width, all calculated for the specific soil type on that specific farm. These aren't antiques. They're precision tools. Now, the illegal part. Several states have statutes that restrict or outright ban steel-wheeled vehicles from traveling on paved public roads. The reason is simple: those cleats chew through asphalt. A loaded steel-wheeled wagon can leave grooves in a county road that cost thousands of dollars to repair, but on their own land, on dirt lanes, field paths, unpaved farm roads, no restriction. And that's exactly where the Amish use them. And the reason runs much deeper than tradition. According to Bobcat magazine, Amish farmers specifically use steel wheels to prevent soil compaction, and their organic agricultural techniques reflect a deep understanding that rubber-wheeled equipment causes soil to lose its nutrients. This isn't stubbornness. This isn't resistance to change for its own sake. It's a deliberate generational decision rooted in something modern agriculture has spent decades overlooking, such as this. And once you understand what that is, you'll never look at your own garden the same way again. Hit subscribe before we go further. This is exactly the kind of video the gardening industry doesn't want you to find. After World War II, American agriculture changed almost overnight. Tractors replaced horses, rubber tires replaced steel, chemicals replaced crop rotation, and yields went up at first, so everyone called it progress. But there was a problem building underground, literally. When a rubber tire rolls across soil under heavy load, it doesn't just compress the surface, it creates what agronomists call a hard pan. A dense, compacted layer 6 to 18 inches below the surface where roots can't penetrate, where water can't drain, and where soil organisms can't survive. Most people think soil compaction just means the ground feels hard. Actually, it means your soil has been structurally destroyed at the layer that matters most. The layer where root systems feed, the layer where water moves, the layer that determines whether your plants thrive or just survive. And here's where the research gets impossible to ignore. Penn State University conducted a multi-year study finding that soil compacted annually with road tires produced significant yield reductions averaging 17% across 3 out of 4 years, compared to fields with zero compaction, 17% year after year, on fields that looked perfectly normal from the surface. And here's the part nobody in the industry advertised: wider, high flotation rubber tires, marketed in the 1980s and 90s as the solution to compaction, actually made it worse at depth. More surface area meant more total pressure transferred downward. The Amish communities that never made the switch, their soil profiles look fundamentally different. Deeper topsoil, better water retention, higher earthworm counts. And they didn't need a university study to tell them. They could see it in their harvest every single year. Here's where it gets fascinating. A steel wheel, especially one fitted with angled cleats, doesn't compress soil the way rubber does. Instead, it slices into the surface layer and then releases. The cleat enters the soil at an angle, provides traction, and exits cleanly. The disturbance is vertical and narrow, not broad and downward pressing. Think of it this way. Imagine pressing your full palm flat onto soft clay. Now imagine pressing just the edge of a credit card into the same clay. The palm spreads pressure across a wide area and pushes deep. The card edge cuts in but leaves the surrounding material largely undisturbed. That's the mechanical difference between rubber and steel on agricultural soil. Pre-World War II farming manuals, and some dating back to the 1890s, specifically describe steel wheel geometry as a soil management tool, not just a transportation method. Farmers understood intuitively that how weight moved across ground determined what that ground could produce next season. Now here's the pattern interrupt. Amish farms in comparable climate zones, same rainfall, same frost dates, similar soil types, have been documented producing yields that match or exceed chemically fertilized conventional farms on certain crops, particularly corn, hay, and root vegetables. Not because of magic, because the soil beneath those fields has never been structurally compromised. The biology is still intact, the fungal networks are unbroken, the drainage channels that earthworms and plant roots carved over decades are still open. Steel wheels didn't just preserve a tradition, they preserved the farm itself. Now you might be thinking, I don't have a farm, I don't have horses or steel wheels or a blacksmith in my community. What does any of this have to do with my backyard garden? More than you'd expect. The principle behind steel wheel farming is actually a principle about soil pressure management, and you are almost certainly violating it in your garden right now without realizing it. Every time you walk the same path through your vegetable beds, you compact that soil. Every time you run a wide rototiller through your plot, you're creating a shallow hard pan just below the tine depth. Every time you use a wide, flat-tired garden cart loaded with mulch or compost, you're pressing that subsoil down. Here's what the Amish principle teaches you to do instead. Establish permanent bed paths and never walk in your growing zones. This single change, used by serious market gardeners worldwide, mimics the narrow footprint approach of steel wheel farming. Your feet stay on defined lanes. Your beds stay uncompacted. Use a wheel hoe instead of a rototiller. A wheel hoe has a narrow steel blade that slices weeds at the soil surface without churning the layers below. It's the direct home garden descendant of steel wheel agricultural thinking. Go no-till where you can. Instead of turning your soil each season, top dress with compost and let earthworms incorporate it. This preserves the soil architecture that took years to build. Avoid wide, heavy equipment on wet soil. Compaction damage is worst when soil is saturated. If your ground is waterlogged, stay off it. Even foot traffic at the wrong moment can set your soil back an entire season. These aren't complicated changes. They don't cost money, they cost awareness. And they're the same principles Amish farmers have been applying down with steel wheels and draft horses for generations. Here's a question worth sitting with. If steel wheels and low compaction farming produce better long-term soil outcomes out, and the research supports this, why isn't it mainstream knowledge? Follow the money. The shift from steel to rubber in post-war agriculture wasn't just a farming decision, it was an industry decision. Rubber tire manufacturers, tractor companies, and chemical fertilizer producers all benefited from a system where soil degradation was a feature, not a bug. Degraded soil needs more inputs, more fertilizer, more irrigation, more machinery to break up hardpan. Every problem created by compaction became a product someone could sell you a solution to. The cost comparison is stark. A small-scale farmer or homesteader practicing low compaction methods, size, permanent beds, wheel hoes, draft animal pressure, spends a fraction of what a conventional operation spends on soil amendment, irrigation infrastructure, and equipment fuel per acre. One agricultural economist estimated that transitioning a mid-sized vegetable operation from conventional tillage to permanent bed, low compaction methods reduced annual input costs by 30 to 40% within 3 years. Once the soil biology recovered. The Amish didn't get a memo about this. They never needed one. They never broke the system in the first place. Steel wheels are just one piece of a larger system, and understanding the full picture makes the results even less surprising. Amish farming typically integrates draft horse traction instead of tractor power. A draft horse, even a large Belgian or Percheron, exerts roughly 14 pounds per square inch of ground pressure through its hooves. A modern tractor under field load can exceed 35 pounds per square inch through its tires at the contact patch. The horse, ironically, is gentler on soil than the machine built to replace it. Crop rotation in Amish communities isn't a suggestion, it's a structural requirement. Corn, small grains, hay, and legumes cycle through the same fields on multi-year schedules that naturally rebuild nitrogen, break pest cycles, and maintain soil organic matter without synthetic inputs. Natural soil amendments, composted manure, wood ash, green manures like clover turned under, feed the soil biology rather than bypassing it. Chemical fertilizers feed the plant directly, which sounds efficient until you realize that bypassing soil biology accelerates its collapse. These practices work together. Low compaction from steel wheels and horse hooves, intact biology from no synthetic chemicals, rebuilt fertility from rotation and organic matter. Each one supports the others. Remove one and the system weakens. The Amish haven't removed any of them. Soil degradation doesn't announce itself loudly. It's slow, it's quiet. And by the time most gardeners or small farmers notice something is wrong, years of compaction and biology loss have already occurred. The signs are there if you know what to look for. Water pooling on the surface instead of absorbing. Plants that look technically alive but never thrive. Yields that decline slightly every year even as you add more fertilizer. Soil that cracks hard in summer and turns to mud in spring with nothing in between. These aren't weather problems. They're soil architecture problems, and the long-term cost is real. Conventional agricultural research now estimates that topsoil is being lost globally at a rate 10 to 40 times faster than it can naturally regenerate. In the United States alone, roughly a third of topsoil that existed at the time of European settlement is already gone. The Amish model didn't create that problem. And communities that have maintained it for generations are sitting on some of the most productive, biologically rich farmland left in North America. Your garden is a smaller version of the same system. Treat the soil like a living thing because it is one and it will produce for you indefinitely. Treat it like dirt, compact it, strip it, drench it in chemicals, and eventually it stops working. The steel wheel isn't just a farming tool. It's a philosophy, one that says, work with the land, not against it. So let's bring this home. The first thing to carry with you, soil compaction is the silent killer of garden productivity, and it starts with something as simple as how weight moves across your ground. The second thing, the Amish didn't preserve steel wheels out of stubbornness. They preserved them because they work, and the soil on those farms, generation after generation, proves it. The third thing, you can apply these same principles starting today. Permanent beds, narrow tools, stay off wet soil. Let the biology do what it's always known how to do. If this opened your eyes to something you weren't thinking about before, hit subscribe. There's a lot more forgotten knowledge on this channel that the modern gardening industry would rather you never found. And if you want to go even deeper, the next video covers the exact composting method Amish farmers use to rebuild soil biology in a single season. No purchased inputs, no complicated systems. Just a method that's been quietly working for 200 years. The land remembers what we've forgotten. It's time we started listening again.